In 2021, we were the first state to assist Texas at the southern border through Operation Lone Star. We deployed over 1,000 National Guardsmen, State Guardsmen, and other state LEOs to assist Texas in its efforts to stop the invasion at the southern border. The federal government at the time was facilitating that, and so we needed states to step up to supplement what Texas was doing. Through Operation Vigilant Sentry, we deployed more than 250 officers and soldiers from various state agencies to patrol Florida's southern coast. And since January of 2023, the efforts that our state law enforcement have done have led to over 17,000 repatriations. We interdict them, turn them over to the Coast Guard repatriates, and confiscation of over 420 vessels. Remember, people were predicting that there was going to be a massive influx from Haiti, given all the things that were happening there, and that has not happened in part because Florida stepped up to protect our coastline. We, of course, have helped facilitate transports of illegal aliens to sanctuary jurisdictions, whether that's California or Martha's Vineyard. We've also had a series of legislation that we have signed into law, passed by the Florida legislature, such as mandatory E-Verify. A lot of people were saying that the economy wouldn't be able to weather that, and in reality, we've grown very strongly. The notion that somehow you need illegal foreign workers to run the economy has proven to not be true. But we also did many more things, such as preventing counties and municipalities and NGOs from issuing ID cards to illegal aliens or accepting cards issued by other jurisdictions. We've increased penalties on illegals who operate vehicles without a license and those who return to the country after already being deported. And you talk to some of these angel moms like Cayenne Michaels, one of our state representatives. A lot of times you'll have previously deported illegals are the ones who end up committing some of these criminal offenses, and that is unacceptable. We've required hospitals to collect and report healthcare costs for illegal aliens so the public could know the true cost of open borders on our healthcare system and other public services. And because we just having that reporting requirement, the amount of money that was being spent declined pretty dramatically. So that was a big success. Through our state assistance for fentanyl eradication initiative, the SAFE initiative, state and local law enforcement have arrested over 1,100 drug and gun smugglers, seized nearly $3 million in cash, 375 firearms, and 50 illegal vehicles, and removed nearly 300 pounds each of fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamines from our streets. FDLE has also arrested dozens of gang members with contacts to drug cartel members in both Mexico and in other states within the interior of the United States. We've also worked hard to secure our elections against illegal voting. And we've enacted policies that the legislature passed and I signed that has led to more accountability than we've ever seen before. Examples: arrest earlier this month of a foreigner who had 6 counts of illegal voting. An arrest in April 2024 of a 6-time convicted felon and criminal illegal alien on 3 counts of illegal voting crimes. An arrest last year of a paid petition circulator who was charged with 20 counts of criminal use of personal identification after submitting more than 700 invalid petitions following a thorough FDLE investigation. Our Department of Corrections is also overseeing several hundred open investigations, Department of Commerce is also overseeing several hundred open investigations into E-Verify enforcement tips, and will continue to make progress as our new partner in Washington, the Trump administration, is supportive of enforcing immigration laws. Last month, of course, we signed an MOU between the Florida Highway Patrol and ICE, which will help facilitate continued partnership as FHP fights illegal immigration and trafficking on our state's highways. Of course, earlier this week, we released our focus on fiscal responsibility budget, and we do call for funding to be able to continue these missions. President Donald Trump won a resounding election victory in part by promising to effectuate the largest mass deportation program in American history. Now, that is not possible to be achieved unless states like Florida actively work to facilitate the federal operations, particularly with respect to interior enforcement. So the voters provided President Trump a mandate. I know personally, having talked to him, he's very much dedicated to fulfilling that mandate, but he's not going to be able to do it if you have states that are trying to kneecap these enforcement efforts, or even if states and localities just simply sit on their hands. So today, we're proud to be one of the first states in the nation to be requested to enter into an agreement with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to execute functions of immigration enforcement within our state. And because of this, I've directed Dave Kerner, the Florida Highway Patrol, to enter into and fulfill this agreement, and of our state troopers trained and approved by ICE to perform these immigration enforcement duties. Thanks to President Trump's strong leadership, through today's agreement, our state law enforcement officers will finally be able to cooperate with the U.S. Homeland Security Authority via ICE's 287G program. This program authorizes ICE to delegate to state and local enforcement officers the authority to perform specified immigration officer functions under the agency's direction and oversight. It also allows ICE enforcement and removal operations to partner with state and local enforcement agencies to identify and remove already incarcerated criminal aliens who are eligible for removal before they are released into our community. This agreement will give FHP expanded power and authority to interrogate any suspected alien or person believed to be an alien as to their right to be in the United States. And if they are found to be in violation of proper immigration status, they will be further detained and processed for state or federal offenses. This means that FHP state law enforcement officers will be empowered to arrest and detain aliens attempting to unlawfully enter the United States, such as through ports of entry or via waters off Florida's coastline, which is, of course, where we see a lot of the direct involvement with illegals. They can also deliver detained illegal immigrants without any unnecessary delays for examination by immigration enforcement authorities for further screening. They can also enforce felony arrests, which are cognizable under any federal law regulating the admission, exclusion, expulsion, or removal of illegal aliens. They will also have the power to serve and execute warrants of arrest for immigration violations and be authorized to administer oaths and to take and consider evidence to complete required alien processing, to include fingerprinting, photographing, and interviewing, as well as the preparation of affidavits and the taking of sworn statements for ICE supervisory review. This means that state law enforcement agencies will have the power and authority to issue immigration detainers and begin establishing records of deportable or inadmissible aliens. This process of preparing charging documents ahead of time for the review of ICE officials will allow for speeding up the deportation process and the quicker removal of dangerous illegals already detained in police custody. And once charged, state authorities will also be empowered to maintain custody of aliens arrested pursuant to immigration laws and transport such aliens to ICE-approved detention facilities instead of being forced to release them back into our communities. So this is a deputization of state enforcement entities. It will allow, of course, our ongoing operations to continue, but it will also establish a permanent path forward for dealing with illegal migrants in police custody. As I said before, now is the time, with the head of steam that President Trump has being swept into office, with this as the centerpiece of his agenda. Now is the final time, final opportunity to end the illegal immigration crisis in this country once and for all. We need to be willing partners with the federal administration. We complained, all these folks in Florida, particularly Republicans, complained for 4 years about Joe Biden with catch and release, with the border, with all the things they were doing, not having enough Coast Guard, which is why we had to do our operation with our vessels. People complained. Well, now we've got a partner that's committed to enforcing the law and reestablishing interior enforcement of immigration laws. So we have to step up to do our part. So this 287G agreement is the maximum amount of participation that we've been asked to do under federal law and with the Department of Homeland Security. We didn't hesitate to step up, and we will take advantage of this, and we will be strong partners. And again, the goal is we need to reestablish interior enforcement in this country. We have to fulfill the president's mission to effectuate the largest deportation program in American history. So we're stepping up. I know some other states will as well. I know some other states will fight this and do everything they can to throw up roadblocks. But we're strong partners. We understand the people spoke loud and clear, and we understand that this is important that these policies be implemented without delay. Okay, next we're going to hear from Dave Kerner, Executive Director, Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles.
Thank you, Governor. It's an honor to be here with you today, and to my partners in ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, thank you for joining us here today.
Okay, we're going to cut that right there just because I wanted people to hear what the governor had to say so that he was on record. Sorry about the camera. Sorry about kind of a rough start. Folks, there's something going on right now that everybody is missing. And when it eventually comes to light, there are going to be a lot of folks doing some soul searching. Now, some have come to me, and I was waiting for it. Florida Maquis, didn't you hear, one second, that Marco Rubio seized another one of evil, terrible, horrible socialist Nicolas Maduro's planes using this sanction, that sanction, and the other sanction. Well, Florida Maquis, what do you have to say about that? We all know that Nicolas Maduro is a dictator, a corrupt dictator who steals money from his people, who steals wealth from his people. He goes out and eats steak dinners while his people are on the Maduro diet and all this kind of stuff. And now we have February 6, 2025, suspected Venezuelan gang members, as if gang members have nationalities, first to arrive in Gitmo. Okay? This is what you call rendition. This is what happens when you can't do to people what you want to do to people in the military, and this is kind of my area of expertise. I've never said I was a special forces guy. I've never said I was some kind of infantry super soldier. My job was human intelligence. I was an interrogator. And there were limitations as to what we could do as U.S. interrogators to extract information from people. So when we were at our limits, we had to do something called rendition. Rendition is a very nasty thing. Rendition is one of those things that if people really knew what went on, they'd stop it tomorrow. They would stop it tomorrow. Now, we've seized more than a few of Nicolas Maduro's assets and the assets of Venezuela. The most recent being this plane in the Dominican Republic. I'd like to put this in the context of what we are discovering with USAID. You see, the whole problem that people have had with Nicolas Maduro, when I exposed what was really going on down there, how the U.S. was responsible by the sanctions for destroying that country, and seizing gold, seizing bank accounts, stopping all sorts of things from going to Venezuela, repair parts for their oil rigs, all this kind of stuff. You see, when you do that to a country, the U.S. destroyed Venezuela, socialism didn't. You create these gangs. Is everybody with me? Okay, let me refresh real quick. Hold on. Let's see if we can, okay. Sorry about that, but let's get right to it. Let's get right to the meat of what we're talking about. Tren de Aragua is a direct result. Tren de Aragua is a direct result of U.S. sanctions on Venezuela. Okay? Tren de Aragua is a direct result of the sanctions on Venezuela. Now, what does this have to do with USAID? What does that have to do with anything? Citing alleged fraud, Trump says nothing can be done to stop the shuttering of USAID. That's today. President Donald Trump on Friday said USAID should close in an escalation of his already unprecedented campaign to dismantle the massive government aid agency. Quote, this is from Donald Trump, the corruption is at levels rarely seen before, close it down. Trump wrote in a trademark all-cap statement on his Truth Social. Okay, now, here's the tie-in. Do you know why you don't hear from MS-13 anymore? Remember, for years and years and years, MS-13 is doing this, MS-13 is doing that, MS-13 is doing the other. But then all of a sudden it changed. All of a sudden it changed to Tren de Aragua. Why did that happen? What happened to MS-13? And for those of you who want to know, Mara Salvatrucha, MS, Mara Salvatrucha, commonly known as MS-13, is an international criminal gang that originated in Los Angeles, California in the 1980s. Originally, the gang was set up to protect Salvadorian immigrants from other gangs in the Los Angeles area, U.S. gangs. Over time, the gang grew into a more traditional criminal organization. Okay? Many MS-13 members were deported to El Salvador after the end of the Salvadorian Civil War in 1992. So the gang was exported from the United States to El Salvador. Now, what happened to MS-13? This happened to MS-13. How many of you know who Bukele is? The president of El Salvador. Some of you might know because some of you are crypto guys. Remember, El Salvador decided they were going to make their national currency Bitcoin? And then Bitcoin went up and I said, oh, what a genius, what fantastic he is. Well, guess what? El Salvador has now backed out of that. They've gotten rid of Bitcoin as their national currency in an agreement for IMF loans that they needed. Isn't that interesting? What did they need the IMF loans for? Well, you see, this is where MS-13 went. It is a massive, huge, mega prison built way out in the middle of nowhere in El Salvador. So ask me this, where did El Salvador get the money to build this massive, huge, you ready for this? 40,000 inmate prison. Where did they get the money to build this prison? How many of you want to take a guess? That's right. USAID built the prison in El Salvador that now houses virtually every single member of MS-13. Oh, but wait, there's more. Marco Rubio has been in meetings with Bukele from El Salvador and now says El Salvador will agree for a fee, meaning the U.S. is going to pay El Salvador to house deportees from U.S., including Americans. Meaning, do you remember when I said a long time ago U.S. prisons were going to empty out? That's right. You see, there are these pesky civil rights laws, these pesky human rights laws that people in prisons have to follow with prisoners, whether they're prisoners because they're illegals or whether they're prisoners just because they're prisoners. Well, guess what? See, it's expensive to run a prison in the United States. Florida Fun fact. Florida, number one driver of the economy in Florida, of course, is tourism. Guess what the number two moneymaker for the state of Florida is? Private prisons. That's right. We've actually found a way here in Florida to make prisons profitable. But they're way, way more profitable, way less problematic down in El Salvador. You see, you can't do this to human beings in America. See what they've done here? They've stripped them all down to just boxers, and that's it, boxers and chains. You see, you look at this mass of humanity, and you don't see anyone, oh, well, that's a gang member, that's a gang member, that's a gang member. They got just regular old criminals in here. Somebody who was on their last legs and decided to maybe, rob some food from a grocery store. This is what they do in El Salvador. This is what a lot of people in the U.S. would like to see done. Because it's easier. It's easier to treat human beings like cattle when you don't like them, or they're inconvenient, or they're not very good tax slaves. Wait a minute, hold on. There's a big difference between an illegal immigrant and somebody who's just behind on their taxes. Not to the federal government, there isn't. Not to the federal government, there isn't. See, the biggest problem that the U.S. had with MS-13 wasn't the fact that they were violent. It was the fact that they were a major money-making organization that was not paying taxes. So, if you are all sorts of excited about Tren de Aragua going to Guantanamo, just wait. Just wait. You see, I find it ironic, I really do, that we now brag about what we are doing to Venezuela still with the sanctions, saying we're going to seize this, we're going to seize that, we're going to seize the other. Why? Because Nicolas Maduro is, didn't have fair and free elections. As if we didn't just have 4 years of somebody run the country who won nothing. I mean, at this point, we know Biden's election was fraudulent. And the person they put up this time to run didn't win a single vote in the primary. Democratic primary. Free and fair elections. And but if you put that aside, he's a corrupt dictator that steals from his people. He's a corrupt dictator that steals from his people. He's a corrupt dictator that, folks, the amount of money that USAID has stolen and misappropriated from the American people makes anything Nicolas Maduro has done seem like a kid stealing a lollipop from the local market. Not kidding. And let's review what this video is all about. The reason you don't hear about MS-13 anymore, the reason you don't hear about it is because through USAID, El Salvador got a bunch of money from the United States to build this giant, huge mega prison, and we just shipped them off in mass. We just ripped them out of the prisons and shipped them off in mass to this 40,000 bed mega prison. And now the U.S. is saying, that worked fantastic. MS-13 just disappeared. Now we're going to do it with regular Americans. We're going to build even more mega prisons all over Central America. Because it's cheap. The land down there is cheap. To hire the people to do the work to build the prisons is super duper duper cheap. And you can do things to prisoners down here that you can't do in the United States. You can feed them once a day. You can keep them barely alive. Super, super efficient. And now Bukele has decided to fall in line, get his IMF loans, And U.S. prisons, the expensive ones, are going to start to empty out, and people are going to cheer. People are going to stand up and cheer. Look at all of the money that Doge is saving us. Look at all of the money that Doge is saving us. Because prisons in Central America are far cheaper to run. There's no cameras down there. There's no cameras down there. So they'll be able to do whatever they want to do. And anytime anybody ever says anything about it, oh, so you must support the evil, terrible, horrible dictator, Nicolas Maduro, the socialist that sent his Venezuelan gang members here to destroy America. That's going to be the story. That's going to be the story. And believe me when I tell you that when anybody says anything, you know what they're going to do? You know what they're going to do? Let's see if I still have it here. Hold on. I don't think I do. I know exactly what they're going to do. They are going to, I don't have the picture, gosh darn it. Well, I guess I'll just leave it here. They're going to run out Pam Bondi. They're going to run out Kristi Noem. They're going to run out Tulsi Gabbard. They're going to run out three little hotties in front of the cameras who are going to give a smiling report of how they have cleaned up this area or that area or this other area. And they've done Trump's job. They've done what Trump wanted done. And nobody is going to ever argue with the three little hotties that are now basically in charge of the U.S. government. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and the Director of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. You put those three together. You put those three women together, they effectively are now in control of the security situation in the United States. Between those three, they will decide who is free, who isn't free, who's a criminal, who's not a criminal. And if people don't like it, they will ship them off to Central America or Guantanamo Bay. Thank you, exactly. Terry Alexander just nailed it. She said it. I wasn't going to say it. Thank you, Terry Alexander, for saying it. They know men can't see past the skirt. They wish they could, but they can't. They can't. Because they're pretty. They're pretty hot. Oh, and then of course they'll add in Caroline Leavitt, the hot little 27-year-old, who will then go out and confirm everything that Kristi Noem, Tulsi Gabbard, and Pam Bondi has said. So, congratulations, I guess. And the reason, by the way, Florida Maquis, why did you start the live with the governor of Florida? The point that I'm making is that, so you want nothing done about immigration. We did stuff about immigration, if you listen to what he said, back under Biden. We got together with Texas. We sent 1,000 troops from Florida to Texas for Operation Lone Star. We single-handedly in Florida stopped the influx of migrants from Haiti when everything fell apart there. The states could have done it. Remember the thing we talked about yesterday with the Protecting Women's Sports Act, and everybody was so excited about Donald Trump doing it, and everybody carried it, and everybody thought, wow, this is great. Florida did that in 2021. We officially signed executive orders not even recognizing that Leah Thomas existed, and we recognized Riley Gaines, we recognized all of the female swimmers. And 30 other red states could have followed us. But they didn't. They waited to get it from Washington, D.C. I'm not a fan of MS-13. They're bad dudes. They're horrible dudes. But they just went away. Notice there was no big party. Notice there was no big celebration about MS-13 just disappearing off the radar. Because people would have asked questions. Where did they go? They went here? Why didn't they go here before? Because it just got built? Where did El Salvador, poor El Salvador, get the money to build this massive 40,000? They got to feed 40,000 people a day. Do you know how much money it takes to feed even one meal a day to 40,000 people? Do you know how much it takes to run just clean water? Let's say you give them one shower a week and they have a toilet for every cell for 40,000 men. Do you know how much power that takes for sanitation? For all of the lights? Do you know how much it costs to pay the guards? Just to bring in the food, just to keep fresh water going. This costs a ton of money. There are not, okay, Herb Green, there are not millions of MS-13. You would think so. You would think that was the case. But the gang, let's go back to the wiki. Do you know how many people? In 2018, the gang's U.S. membership of up to about 10,000. Well, 1.4 baloney. Of the 1. Okay, well, no, this is what they're saying. 10,000 account for less than 1.41% of the 1.4 million of all gang members in the United States. They had 10,000 members. 10,000 members. Is that what you were trying to say? No, you said there are hundreds of thousands of MS-13, maybe millions. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Not the case at all. It was a gang of about 10,000 guys that accounted for less than 1% of the 1.4 million total gang members of all gangs in the United States. Facts. You see, the reason you think this is the case, the reason that you think this is the case is because of the media. The reason people think that, we have this massive problem is because all they talk about. But this is going to be super convenient. Super, super convenient, ironically speaking, from a Cuban immigrant or a child of Cuban immigrants. So, yeah, just in case, what are they going to do with all the empty prisons? That's a great question. That is a fantastic question. What are they going to do with all of the empty prisons once they start deporting U.S. citizens to foreign prisons so that they can, do what they want to do. Do what they want to do that they can't do here. That might make its way to the media here. You see, I haven't heard anybody yet. It's been 2 weeks. And, okay, hold on. Herb Green, I'm in California. I see their tags everywhere out here. Okay, so half a dozen kids tag, a dozen buildings, and all of a sudden you think there are 5,000 of them? Spray paint's cheap. And they might not even be members of MS-13. They just want people to think they're there. So, but my point being that I have not heard from the Trump administration yet. Remember when the alphabet agencies declared that it was lone wolf, white supremacists that were public enemy number one? They're the greatest threat to public safety. It was Christian right wing. Remember that whole thing? Remember that whole thing about Christian right wing Trump support? When are they going to revise that? You see, I still think there are people in the government now that know within their ranks they have people that need to be brought to heel. You notice you don't hear. It's very strange. You don't hear from Steve Bannon much anymore. I know he has his own little podcast, and boy, I tell you what, you should see the little hottie he's got working for him, by the way. Steve Bannon on his podcast, holy smokes. That's probably the only reason it gets any attention. Go to X and find Steve Bannon and find his podcast. And Winters is her name, Ariel, or I want to get that right. I think her last name is Winters. My goodness, unbelievable. But once again, for those who are we got people still joining. We'll go over it real quick here. I know everybody is very familiar with USAID and the money and the corruption. It far exceeds anything Nicolas Maduro has ever done, but yet we're still seizing his stuff. And basically the reason you don't hear from MS-13 anymore, and let's get Donald Trump's quote in here. President Donald Trump on Friday said USAID should close. Campaign to dismantle the massive government agency. Corruption is at levels rarely seen before. Close it down. So basically stating that the U.S. is as corrupt, if not more corrupt, than any country out there when it comes to money. And the reason you don't hear from MS-13 anymore is because they went to prison. All of them. They shipped them out of U.S. prisons where they started in Los Angeles. MS-13 didn't start in Central America and then come to America. MS-13 started here as a protection group for El Salvadorians who came here from other gangs, Mexican gangs, Puerto Rican gangs, gangs from America, black and white, both. But they rounded them all up and they put them in the state-of-the-art prison that was built down in El Salvador by this guy named Bukele. Tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to build and maintain a prison like this. And where did they get the money? They got the money from USAID. USAID built the prison that pretty much ended MS-13. I'm sure there's probably some little stragglers left of MS-13, but their entire operation was shut down by this one prison. And now this guy who was supposed to be Bitcoin hero, blockchain hero, running a country based on blockchain has now relented and now removed Bitcoin as the national currency in exchange for promises of loans from the IMF. And now U.S. prisons are going to start to empty into prisons that are being built all over the place. And the empty prisons in America? J6 was just a warm-up, kids. Hope you have your real ID to prove that you're an American citizen. I hope you have your real ID. Everybody out there have their real ID? Everybody caught up on their jabs? Everybody caught up on their mRNA jabs? You know, their patriotic ones? You know, their Trump wants 2 billion of them? Trump's building a sovereign wealth fund to buy 2 billion mRNA jabs for you to save you from cancer, to save you from everything else. Boy, I sure hope you're caught up on those so that you can get your real ID, so that you can prove you're actually an American citizen, because now birthright citizenship is going away. So now just being born here, just having a birth certificate doesn't even mean you're a citizen anymore. Doesn't mean you're a citizen. So, congrats, I guess. Congrats. And once again, and I'll say it one final time, the reason the live started out with the governor of Florida talking about working with the federal government is it reinforces the fact that we were doing this. We were taking the reins of deporting people, getting rid of people, and handling illegal immigration back in 2021. Florida and Texas and got together with other states, and we were doing a pretty damn good job of it. But now, with partner with federal government, I know everybody's excited about this, but mark my words, it is going to have consequences. And I'm very curious what people's plans are post-Trump, having now handed all of this power to the feds, having handed all of this massive amount of power to the feds. I really, truly wonder what the plan is post-Trump. Because I'll be very honest with you, I don't see J.D. Vance beating anybody in a head-to-head contest. So enjoy your 4 years. Enjoy your 4 years. If you think Obama was radical, if you think Obama, when the fallout is done over on the left with the Democrat Party, they're still going to say, you know what? We liked Kamala, but she still wasn't radical enough. She still wasn't radical enough. She was still pro-Israel. She was still just kind of, she was 60 years old. That's what they're going to say. She was 60 years old and Biden was 89 years old or whatever and in state of dementia. We need really young people. Really young, really, really radical people that have no knowledge of the Bible, that have no knowledge of the U.S. relationship with Israel, that have no ties to it, that will come out and firmly and formally and completely say, if you elect me, I will completely stop all money going to Israel on day one. You watch what happens. You watch whoever is up in 4 years lose to that person. You want to talk a whole bunch of people coming out of the closet and saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to vote for whoever says they're going to defund Israel. You watch how fast that happens. And then you're going to have a real radical in the presidency who's going to have the power of Trump. Yeah, that's not going to last, Herb. Herb Green says, you see who they elected for chair and vice chair? Yeah, I saw the hog thing, but I could see it in 4 years. I could truly see it. I could see a guy like Hogg in a position of power. Because there's people right now on the right that are incensed at Trump about this whole Gaza thing. And they're like, you know what? We wanted to make America great again. We thought we were going to get out of bed with Israel, and now he's just flopping right back in bed with him. And believe me, the underground economy, the black market economy, they're not going to be super excited in about a year when all of that money goes away too. There's a whole bunch of money in remittances. There's big money in the fees for remittances. There's big money in underground economy blockchain. Mark my words. Mark my words. Enjoy your 4 years. Enjoy your 4 years because they're going to throw up radicals that are going to do some pretty crazy stuff. They're going to bring back the idea of UBI, universal basic income. They're going to bring back the idea of total gun bans. And look, it's my era. It's Gen X. It's Gen X and boomers that put Trump into positions of power. We're just getting older and older and older, and we're dying off. We just have the numbers right now. That's not going to be the case very, very soon. And when they look into this, they're going to figure out what people figured out a long time ago about where most of the wasteful spending is done. You see, they're showing all these little programs now that are a few million here, a few million there, a few million all over the place. They're going to see the massive amount of waste and fraud that goes on in Medicaid, goes on in Medicare, and goes on in the military. And when those numbers come out, it's going to make USAID seem like a pittance. It's going to make it seem like nothing. And then you're going to have this huge groundswell. We need to do what Clinton did to the military, but do that on steroids. So they're going to start to slash military funding, meaning they're just going to basically scrap aircraft carriers, and they're going to withdraw from the world, and they're going to completely revamp and redo Medicare and Medicaid. And people are like, well, we had to get rid of the fraud. It's just going to be that much less money out there. It's going to be that much less money out there. And people are going to say, wow, remember something, folks. Remember something, and I'll leave with this. Back in 2020, when Biden first took office, 2021, early 2021, it was virtually unanimous. It was virtually unanimous that Donald Trump's political career was over, and all of his supporters' influence in politics was over, and he would just be lucky to be allowed to retire without going to jail. That was the opinion of everybody in the media. Everybody in the media ran away from him for about a year and a half. And then they raided Mar-a-Lago, and then something funny happened. And then something strange happened. And so don't think that the Democrats, because they're down now, Donald Trump was down pretty bad at one point too. He was in bad shape too, just like the Democrats are now. So don't count them out. Don't count them out. Do not underestimate desperate people. You should see what's being talked about over at Blue Sky right now. What's being talked about over at Threads right now. Yeah, a lot of it's kind of kooky stuff. But back in 2021, if you would have talked about in 2021, Donald Trump being in collusion with big billionaires, with big corporations, that they would all be sending millions to his campaign, and he'd got to remember something. Doge, this guy Elon Musk, he came out and was pushing for DeSantis to be president. Who remembers that? He was pushing for DeSantis to be president. And look at what's going on now. That this would be the case, that it would have been such a sweep in the election of all of the swing states. Nobody would have predicted this. So I'm just saying. Be careful what you wish for. This idea of the government having unchecked power to sweep in, and if you don't have a real ID, to pick you up, put you on a plane, and send you to Guantanamo, send you to El Salvador, send you to anywhere they want to, simply based on the fact that you couldn't at that point in time confirm for a fact that you were a U.S. citizen, especially if you were unvaccinated. Mark my words. This never ends well. When you give a federal government this kind of power to overrule states, to override states, think about it. There was a reason the founding fathers said that powers not specifically delineated to the federal government in that document fell to the states. Powers not specifically delineated. Is that 10th Amendment? Somebody help me out there. Which amendment is it that says that powers not specifically given to the feds fall to the states? It's gone. It's gone. So, facts, really? Kramlicker thinks that me giving out facts and me proving out facts is somehow another L. I'm going to laugh when Anna Paulina Luna. How many of you know who Anna Paulina Luna is? The representative from Florida. Yeah. Oh, by the way, yeah. Kramlicker. Yeah, I'm an L with 128,000 subscribers on YouTube, and a decent percentage of that over on Patreon as well. So, whatever you want to define as an L, I guess that's up to you. But point being, Anna Paulina Luna said that she is going to next week be disclosing something bigger than aliens. Oh, we got capital double D Buddy Boy here. Wow, is that how big your fat tits are, double D's, Buddy Boy? Your big fat boy tits? Lots of big L. Yeah, it sounds like you see, this is about the time the trolls come in. It's always predictable when they show up, because they can't handle the truth. They can't handle the truth. They're like, you don't deserve the subscribers. I don't know how you get this many people to. Been doing it for a long time, guys. So just saying, it's just, I guess it's a sign of success when you have to have people who have no other job out there than to go out and try to attack people. So, who are just doing their very, very best to show people the truth based on experience. So, thank you very much, Samira. Appreciate that. Herb, thank you very much. All my regular subscribers, thank you so much. I very, very much appreciate it. I know we talk about Patreon a lot, and I don't want to get into the weeds on that, but I wish I didn't. When I signed up, when I first set up a Patreon, I told people, look, I wish I could charge $0.25 a month for it. I wish I could charge 10 cents a month for it. I really did. I really wished I hadn't needed it. But what they have done now with the algorithms, what they have done now with the advertising, it's cratered by 75 to 80%. The rates. That's why. Anybody wonder why you don't hear from the Patriot Nurse but once every blue moon? Thank you, Truth Warrior. Very much appreciate it. Montana Governor's excellent, Prescott. Montana Governor is an excellent, excellent choice. I don't know a whole lot about the guy, but I do believe that that he's going to take them in a better direction. So, yeah, and I know, I mean, Preston Roberts, if you ever saw the old hag syndrome, you'll never like a woman. Oh, yeah, don't know about that. I mean, but point being, I have a real ID. And those of you out there who are all about the whole gun thing, I don't mean to jump all over as far as topics, but the support over at Patreon, like I said, it's $2 a month now at the base level. $2. That's it. If you sign up for an entire year, you get a discount. And once again, if you sign up now, you can watch everything over there for a month, 2 months, 3 months. And if you don't like it, if it's not for you, or if you don't think it's worth it, or if you come into financial issues, you can just go right in and say, hey, I'm inside my 90 days. I'd like my refund, please. I'd like my refund and all that money back at you. Takes, just like any other refund, 24 to 48 hours, be right back at you. What do I think about Trudeau? Trudeau is Barron Trump's biological father. I'll tell you that. Go put the pictures up with Melania and a very young Justin Trudeau. You have to go look at a young Justin Trudeau, but it's very, very clear that Donald Trump is not the biological father of Barron Trump. I mean, you can think about whatever you want that way, but you see, I'm going to little inside baseball here, guys. I don't mean to embarrass us, but there's a reason that 60-year-old men cannot donate sperm at sperm banks. Because over time, a man's sperm just degrades. There's nothing you can do to stop it. 60-year-old men rarely ever get anybody pregnant. Why? Just because they're swimmers. Just because their little swimmers are just not as good as they used to be. If you're in really good shape and you've taken care of yourself really, really good, you might be able to at 60, perhaps, get lucky and get a girl pregnant. But Donald Trump wasn't one of those guys. At 60 years old, Donald Trump had spent most of his life, doing coke, and he was overweight. Just didn't take care of himself all that well. He just was not physically in shape. So, the chances of him at 60, when he met 33-year-old Melania, getting her pregnant were almost zero. The chances of Donald Trump getting her pregnant was almost zero, given the shape that he was in. And if you go look at young pictures of Justin Trudeau, and you look at the body language, of Melania Trump and Justin Trudeau, it's very, very clear. This is why Donald Trump hates Justin Trudeau. This is why he always, goes after him. But, the reality is what the reality is. That Barron Trump is clearly the biological offspring of those two. So, anyway, and he's, like I said, he's decades and decades younger. So that's, just my, my 2 cents on Justin Trudeau. You know, there's a lot of people in Canada that don't like him, and there's a lot of people that do. Canada only has a population of, I think it's about the size of Texas. A lot of people forget that too. You know, Canada only has a population the size of Texas. Maybe the size of Texas. Somewhere between Florida and Texas, I think. So, just saying. It's, you know, people ask opinions about a lot of different things. You know, if you want to really get into this, there's people out there that are just too young to remember when Venezuela was our ally. Venezuela was our ally. The Colombians, I mean, how many people remember Miami Vice when it was on TV? How many people remember Miami Vice? Crockett and Tubbs, the girls walking in the bikinis, you know, at the very end that everybody tuned in to watch, the girls, you know, walking out of the concession stand, you know, and it was kind of cheesy, it was campy, but it was based on reality. The Colombians were our enemies. The Colombians were. You never heard about Venezuelan anything. Did you? Never once, not in one episode. Did you ever? It was the Colombians that were shoveling that crap up here. The last place you wanted to get caught as a drug dealer was Venezuela. They were our ally. Even when I was in, they flew the F-16. For God's sakes. Ronald Reagan, the first non-NATO country to get the F-16 was Venezuela, and they were socialists then. They have been socialists since World War II. So this ridiculous idea about socialism destroying countries. Do you know how many socialist countries there are in Europe that are wealthy and prosperous, and the only thing that destroyed them now is the immigration crap. The only thing that destroyed them now, these countries over there, is the immigration crap. When they had their closed borders, their national socialist closed borders, and they didn't have immigrations, they were safest, wealthiest countries over there. Sweden and Finland and Denmark and all these countries over there that kept the money in-house to take care of people in-house. It was Colombian drug money. It wasn't Venezuelan drug money. It's Colombian drug money. This is, I guess, you just would have to be a certain age to understand this. But anyway, we're getting up on an hour, so one more quick run through the facts of what this was about here, right here at the end, for anybody that showed up late. We had the governor on, and the governor talked about what Florida did during the Biden administration to mitigate, and successfully did, to mitigate the immigration issue. And we were wildly successful. If we would have had a lot more states on board with us, we wouldn't have needed the federal government. But, funny story, all sorts of information out there now about yet another plane, Venezuelan plane, just to shuttle diplomats back and forth, being seized by Marco Rubio. And people saying, Florida Maquis, don't you know that he's an evil, terrible, horrible dictator that sends Aragua gang members to the United States, and now we're deporting them to Gitmo? What do you have to say about that? What's your point on this? The point on this is that the reason you hear about Aragua and you don't hear about MS-13 is because USAID, one of the most corrupt organizations on the planet that has stolen far more money from the US people than Nicolas Maduro ever stole from the Venezuelan people, funded a huge, massive prison to be built in El Salvador, 40,000 bed. The U.S. funded this and got in bed with this guy named Bukele. Bukele was known for taking his national currency and getting rid of it and replacing it with Bitcoin. Well, now he's reversed himself. In order to get in bed with the IMF and get in bed with the United States again to keep the money flowing, he's now agreeing for a fee to take even U.S. citizens into his prison for a per head fee. So this is your future. A USAID, money from the USAID built this massive prison in El Salvador where we shipped virtually every single member of MS-13. So, we got another troll. RJ Karen thinks I'm a soy boy because I'm telling the truth. Where they can rendition people and do things to people that aren't allowed to be done to people in the United States because of human rights and civil rights. It's going to be a lot cheaper. And it's going to be out of the public eye. And nobody's going to question the four little hotties that are going to be in charge of this. Who are the four little hotties? I wish I'd have brought the picture. Caroline Leavitt, the 27-year-old spokesperson. Then you've got Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, the hot blonde from Florida. You've got the super smoking hot former governor of, was it South Dakota or North Dakota? South Dakota. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. And then, of course, smoking hot Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence. So you put all of these things together, nobody's going to question it. All I'm saying is get your real ID, get your biometric real ID set, folks. Because now you're going to have to prove, once birthright citizenship ends, you're going to have to figure out some way to prove when they come kicking down your door that you're a United States citizen. Hope you're ready. Hope your skin isn't a little darker than average in the summertime. So, somebody said, looks like chick. You know what? It is kind of funny. It truly is. When you look at the picture, I kind of agree. You look at it, it's like, wow, that doesn't look very big. It's kind of hard at this scale to see how big this prison is. That they can put, they got 5,000 people per building. Each of these is a dual row. So if you can think of 2,500 people per row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So, can you imagine how the other groups of criminals are going to do? Yeah, I know, right? All I'm going to say is this: law and order is great. I live in a law and order county in Florida. I live up here between Daytona and St. Augustine. And things are very peaceful here. Things are very safe here. Can leave the doors open. Don't really have to worry about much. But I will say this: if there is a negative to Florida, do not get crossways with the law over anything here. Don't even be seen as being associated with anyone who could possibly be thought of as getting crossways with the law down here. Peace and law and order comes at a price. Peace and law and order comes at a price. Liberty suffers a little bit. I'm too old to be getting into, the kind of nonsense that might attract, that type of activity. Just too old for it anymore. But in my younger days, I'm just saying, our founding fathers were a little bit more fast and loose with morals, fast and loose with behavior. Oh, chicken sheds, the kinds of thousands. Agreed. Chicken sheds, absolutely so. I will leave it there. So, folks, could definitely use your support on Patreon. Like I said, $2. If you got $2 a month, not $2 a week, not $2 a video. If you got $2 a month, guys, you would not believe the power people have in large numbers with small amounts like that. So I will leave that there. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.